Should we start without him, or what do you think?
Yep.
All right, switch the sides. I can't sit like that anymore.
I don't know whose idea was to put the
I don't
cameras
know.
over there.
That was solid.
We've been doing actually pretty good. Well, we're not drinking at these jobs. Yeah, come on in then.
There's agenda packets and just an agenda up here if you need it.
Okay. So it is 6:01. I would like to begin the City Council meeting dated March 15th of 2022. Roll call, please. Rose.
Mayor Brolio will be here late. Vice Mayor Hernan,
Present.
Councilmember Tiscornia,
President.
Councilmember Moncada, President, Councilmember Sharada,
Present.
staff is present.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to report out of closed session that direction was given to staff. And then moving on, I think we should have a pledge of allegiance. Let's do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're looking for approval of the agenda as posted or any amendments that might need to be made. Yep.
I'll make the motion.
Isabel makes the motion.
I will second it.
Gretel seconds. All approved? Or I'm sorry, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's a 4-0-1. Public comment. The public may address the council on any items of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none. Moving on to consent agenda. Anybody have anything to say about consent agenda? Any member of the public have any concerns or anything to pull off of consent? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to move forward with the consent agenda.
I make the motion.
Caroline?
I'll second.
Isabel? All approved?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All in favor.
I think Isabel needs to be over here. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that passes on a 4-0-1 vote. Moving on to our regular agenda. A, public hearing ordinance 521 is the second public hearing to be considered for the amending of Angels Camp Municipal Code Chapter 17.85 to update planning commission procedures and establish a sign review committee to facilitate sign review in the historic commercial district. Amy Augustine, city planner.
Mayor and council members, as we mentioned at the last public hearing, this is basically to shorten the review period for signs in the historic district. It's the crux of the matter. And we do ask that you hold a second public hearing and recommend that you approve this item so that we can start processing signs more quickly in the historic district. Any questions? That I can answer.
No, but I really like that idea. Yeah, that's great. I was one of those people maybe.
So do we need a motion on that, or?
Public comment.
Oh, sorry, go for public comment.
Here,
Any members of the public want to comment on this? Okay, so we will close the public hearing. Now we're looking for a motion.
I will make the motion to amend Angels Municipal Code, Chapter 17.85.
Gretel? I'll second. How about a second from Isabel? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 4-0-1. Thank you for that. Okay, that takes us to regular agenda 7B. Ordinance 522, the second public hearing to consider adding the new Angels Municipal Code Section 1706-220, defining low barrier navigation centers, addressing permit processing and zoning districts where it is allowed by use, by right, and permitting procedures and requirements as established by state law. And then adding Angels Municipal Code 1706-220, defining low barrier navigation centers, permit processing, zoning districts where it's allowed by use, by right, and permitting procedures and requirements as established by state law.
Mayor and council members, there's a slight correction. Again, we're not doing the same thing twice. We're not doing low barrier navigation centers. We're doing that and codifying the California Housing Accountability Act, which we used when we adopted the Habitat for Humanity project. And again, low barrier navigation centers are not for landing airplanes. They are for facilitating moving homeless people to permanent residency. And that's basically what these amendments are for.
So just to clarify, so it's section B where it says defining low barrier, that's the same code. Right.
Yes, and it's correct in the staff report.
Yeah, it's correct.
And it was correct in the legal notice, so yeah.
Okay? So we can go ahead and unless anybody has comments or questions, we can open public hearing on this one. Anybody have any public comment? Okay, we'll close that and come back for a motion on this. How do you want this motion read, you guys? Exactly as it is?
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, okay. Isabel? Looking for a second?
I'll second.
Caroline? All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? That will pass 401. The last public hearing of the night is Ordinance 523, which is the second public hearing to consider adding Angels Municipal Code 1604-045, incorporating parcel and subdivision map findings related to fire protection in accordance with state law. Amy.
Mayor and council members, again, this is just putting into the code what is already in state law. It affects very high fire hazard severity zones, of which the ones we have in the city are near Habitat for Humanity, along Gold Cliff, and over near Nathan's house. So basically, this just takes special findings if you want to get parcels that are very, very small. That's all I had to add, except that after this, you only have one more batch of code changes and you're done. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, no comments on this, you guys? We will open this for public hearing then, and be ready for any public comment. All right, no public comment, so we'll close it now and bring it back to council. Looking for a motion on item C, ordinance 523.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Caroline and Gretel. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 401, opposed. Takes us to item D, discussion and direction for strategic goals for 2022 and 23, and the next steps for phase 2 of the strategic plan. Rebecca Cowan, please.
Okay, so this has been something that several people have discussed with me, and I needed to do some research to figure out what anyone was even talking about. And I really needed to identify what did we complete in terms of phase 1 and what didn't we. So really, the thing to really be aware of is when this strategic plan was implemented, it was originally going to be used in the 1920 budget. And if you all recall, COVID hit, and it kind of derailed anything and everything that was happening. So everything associated with a lot of the direction within that strategic plan kind of got sidelined. And if you recall, then City Gate was called in to actually help facilitate a COVID response. So now we're coming out of COVID, and we have kind of stalled in terms of what we wanted to see going forward with the strategic plan for the city. And so it was a good time to bring this forward to kind of do just a overview of what we have done, what we haven't done, the things that are coming down the pipe. And also, as part of the strategic plan, when it first came out, there was recommendation that every year in January, the council would have an opportunity to give direction on priorities for the upcoming fiscal year budget. And so we're kind of out of order a little bit because I didn't start till February, and we had to get the budget information out to departments already. So the recommendation here is really to kind of go back to some of the recommendations that were in the original, phase one, which is enhance the budget document to make it more user-friendly, and so we want to really incorporate that in this budget document for 22-23, not just for the council to use, but for staff to be able to refer back to throughout the year, and also for the public. What we have right now is pretty tedious to be able to go through it and find information readily available. We want to make sure that we're incorporating a really proficient capital improvement program in the budget. It's not just about what we need to fund today, it's about what we need to also fund tomorrow. So a capital improvement plan should kind of be a long-range plan, which, honestly, we don't have the money to pay for all of it today, but we always want to make sure that we're keeping that in our line of sight, because we always want to identify if there's grant funding, or if you have other priorities that come up, we can always point back to that would be great to do that. However, we have these other projects that we need to work on. And then also decentralizing the financial system to departments. We've already started kind of doing that. We have some limitations in our current financial system, so I'm kind of working outside the system, but engaging with different technologies with departments so that they can get information now. And then developing comprehensive financial policies. There's other policies we also need to bring forward, but we really don't have any financial policies in place. And having those financial policies in place, make sure that whether it's today or 10 years from now, we're all following those same policies. And so you're less likely to have variations in how budgets are handled, or purchasing is handled, or whatever those operational activities are. In terms of the 6 main priority areas that were defined in that 2019 staff report, they talked about making sure that you had policies and procedures for administrative and financial policies. We have not done that. Policies and procedures with developing monthly financial reports. We haven't done that. Policies and procedures with developing quarterly financial reports. We really haven't done that. Water and sewer, focusing on capital improvements to support economic growth. There has been a lot of that, but we need to do more of that. Water and sewer with continuing with rate increase study, that did happen, but we're going to be coming up to that conversation again in the near future. So that's something we just need to be aware of. Developing a CIP to incorporate into the budget process. Parts of that have been in the budget, but it's not comprehensive enough. It's more of a, here's what we have for this year, and not really looking forward. So we need to do, it needs to be developed more. focusing on maintenance and repair for water and sewer. Some, again, that really, for the most part, has been, well, here's what we need to do for this year. But there are some critical, almost capital maintenance that needs to happen on the water and wastewater infrastructure that we really need to kind of get our minds around, and that also needs to be incorporated in that CIP plan. Tools for staff, focusing on technology, computers, and equipment. We're all aware that that was not done, so we're focusing on that a lot right now. Growth in business, we need to really focus on the water and the sewer necessary to support that growth in the city. Some of that has been done, but again, some of that also needs to be incorporated in our long-range CIP plan. And then providing for public investments and maximize private investment for capital infrastructure. Again, some of that has been done, but that also needs to align with that CIP plan, because those are also opportunities to get those projects funded in that way as well. The fire police, there was discussion about exploring consolidation in campus funding. That is occurring. We do have the grant funding that we are currently underway in the fire house on main campus. Fire and police stabilizing police services and staffing. Some of that has happened. You know, if you think back, we had, I think, almost all of the personnel where we were contracting with the sheriff's department. So we do have PD here, but there's always a struggle in law enforcement, whether you're with the sheriff's department or local PD, of retaining staff. So that is something that I'm engaging with the chief to talk about ways that we can affect more longevity with staff. And then the TOT was matching the county 12%, which that was successful in doing. So those are kind of a look back of what was out there in terms of priorities versus what we actually were able to accomplish and things that we weren't. The things that we're currently working on, and you'll see this in the next item, I am bringing forward monthly financial information now. It's going to be important to kind of roll that up to a quarterly basis, so that'll be easier to do. I'm already working on some policies and procedures that'll help efficiencies for departments. Public Works is working on a maintenance schedule, so we did talk with Chris O'Flynn on that, and so he is in the process of working on that, and then implementing that as part of this upcoming fiscal year. Technology's been a big hurdle. So since I got here, I've been working with our contracted IT to kind of brainstorm on what we can do and what we can change in a cost-effective way. So we are making those changes right now. I'm not waiting until the new fiscal year. I'm identifying where we have kind of low-hanging fruit that we can deal with that. And then we're continuing to coordinate with economic development partners so that we can identify where opportunities for growth and partnership that make sense. So I think that, you know, for the most part, you know, even though I've only been here for a little over a month, I am ramping up in getting these things underway. And I'm pretty confident that a lot of these things are going to be happening, if not by the end of this fiscal year, they're definitely going to be way underway when the next budget gets developed, and they will be incorporated in that. And then that leaves where, you know, I think I don't want to see stagnation in that momentum. I want to keep going. So for me, the strategic plan is really, really important because it helps identify kind of that beacon, right? So it doesn't matter whether, you know, you're the council or there's another council or I'm the city administrator or another city administrator or staff turnover or whatever it is. That strategic plan is kind of like the beacon that everybody can see and go to, whether you're the public or staff or council. And it helps make sure that we're all going in the same direction. And we all understand why we're going in that direction. And it's a good thing to have kind of a longer range consideration for that plan. And then we're always referring back to it, whether it's negotiating with unions or prioritizing projects or prioritizing growth in the city or the type of growth that you want to see in the city. All that is really identified in that strategic plan. So I think that, you know, a lot of what's on here is kind of housekeeping stuff, and we need to get to kind of that bigger, fundamental, strategic vision that everybody wants to see in the city and that we can move forward with. And it's, you know, I've heard, you know, some people have said, well, I don't know if we should spend that, you know, we could spend that money on something else, or what if there's a downturn in the economy and we could use that money for over here instead of over there. You want to have that plan, because it's when things are going bad, it's easy to not do anything. And when things are going good, everyone then just struggles to, like, well, which direction are we gonna go? This is an opportunity for us to have that guiding document that we all agree, and agree to disagree on certain things, to move us all forward, and then we all know which direction we're going. And no matter what happens, that is the direction we continue to go, good or bad. So, some of what is in Citygate's proposal, I'm gonna talk with them, because I don't want to pay for them to rehash what I just went over with you. That's not necessary. I'm completely capable, if you want to go in more detail of what we did and how we facilitated parts of phase 1, I can do that. They don't need to do that. I want them more to focus on going forward and having that bigger plan and getting everybody on the same page to think broader, more globally, on how we get from here to here with the city, and what makes sense for our future. Because the strategic plan should be a vision for, you know, today, but also tomorrow, and keeping us going in that direction. So I'm really excited about it. I was part of the strategic plan at the county. Take one, which the board didn't quite gel on that one. So it was hard, and I think that's the hardest part on strategic plans, is making sure that the legislative leadership can agree and move forward. So that's first and foremost what's really, really important, is that you're committed to making those decisions, and coming to a consensus and moving forward in that direction. I worked on the strategic plan with Calaveras County Water District, and that was a successful strategic plan. We were able to get employees to buy off on it, and the public to buy off on it, and department heads to buy off on it, and the board, everybody. And it's a great document. And throughout the year, you know, I would sit there and go through the budget or look at a contract or whatever it was, and I was always referring back to that strategic plan. How does this contract or how does this project align with the vision, right? So, and I wasn't the only one doing that. Everybody was doing that. That's what you want your strategic plan to be. So, I think that this is a great opportunity to move forward in that direction and get that momentum going, because I'm going to get these things done quickly. And then we're going to be sitting there going, okay, well, what's next? So I really would like to get them, you know, in the room and start having these conversations and get everybody moving in that direction. So that's my recommendation. I think it's a great opportunity. It's in the budget. You know, we're filling staff, so I'm confident we'll be able to have that financial director filled soon, which is going to get that off of me so I could spend more time on this, and have a real good partner, you know, getting some of, because a lot of these things are things that that financial director would facilitate as well. So, that's what I have to say, and I'm sticking to it. Is there any questions on that?
Well, I love roadmaps. I like it when even if the economy does a downturn, you have that to look back on and say, okay, then what are our priorities in this moment? And you can go back to that. I love having direction. We did the same thing in my last organization, and everybody knew where we were and what the mission was, and so you could always refer back, like, this is what we're doing. And so for all of the stakeholders knew what the plan was, why we were making these decisions, and when we were making those decisions. So I'm excited about this. Thank you.
What is your mode of getting this implemented? I mean, are you wanting them to come to, we all talked about having them give us a presentation. Are you on that idea, or are you more of, we want to tell them what to do as opposed to have them give us ideas?
So, a good strategic plan facilitator is not going to tell us what we should do. They're going to tease out what you want to do. And they're going to ask, you know, sometimes it can almost be annoying because they're asking you the same question 15 different times. But it's really because they're trying to get, like, what is it you really want? And it's making sure that it's clear to them, and that, you know, is what you're saying and you're saying really the same thing. You're just saying it in a different way. What is the end goal and end result for what this vision is? What is the pulse out in the public? What have we historically been doing? What's worked and what hasn't worked? So their goal is never to come in and tell us how we should run the city, or what our mission should be, or what our vision should be. It is identifying what we want that to be, what we think it should be, what the City of Angels means to us today and tomorrow. So they're really a facilitator. That's their role. And so it's important, and I would say, you know, I think everything happens for a reason, right? Doing a strategic plan, long range, would have been really, really hard to do if it was all Zoom. You have to be in a room. You have to talk to each other. You have to, you know, kind of tolerate everyone sitting there and going through these exercises. That's really hard to do when you're distanced. So I think the fact that this kind of stalled out is probably a good thing, because now we can kind of come back in person and have these conversations, and they can be here more in person. So it's still a heavy lift. There's a lot of homework that's going to have to take place, but you know, I think that historically, when I worked on strategic plans, the facilitators are really good. They know what they're doing, and they're really good at teasing that information out of everybody.
Were you asking if they're going to come and give us a presentation about what they were going to
Well,
do?
partially too, or how you go about doing it. You know,
Okay, because it's outlined here, like who they want to interview, who they would go out and talk to, like community leaders, business owners, staff. Like they're gonna talk to a lot of people to get that insight.
So it takes, but I mean, like, what is the timeline? Are we saying we want to get them here in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
So I'll talk to them and kind of, we'll gauge together what that looks like, so we can come up with a schedule, so everybody, you know, we can kind of all weigh in when we're ready to kind of jump off that diving board. But we want to make sure that we have time that the outreach can happen, so that public that need to be involved can be involved, they have an opportunity. We don't want them just showing up and nobody
Mhm.
knew that they were coming.
Right.
And that's important, and we're gonna want them to talk to staff, the public, department heads, council, because sometimes what happens is, I think everything's great, and it's all this. They talk to all these people and they're like, oh, no, she's crazy, it's this way.
Right.
So it starts kind of solidifying, where you have cracks. And so part of that is them helping us identify where those cracks are, because maybe that gets incorporated in having better outreach plans, having, like, the public might say, your number one issue is,
Your website.
Your website,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
Or they might say something that none of us are even aware of is
So
happening.
let me ask you this. We already have identified some of our weaknesses. And let's just say, for example, website.
Yep.
So I want to make sure that this new strategic plan doesn't spend any wasted time or wasted money on already identifying something that we've already either identified in the previous or since then. Like, I don't want any rehashing of anything. I think it's great and wonderful to strategize on our future and things that are unforeseen to us and agreeable and obvious or less obvious. That's all fine. But I guess I'm just not wanting to make it rehash. I think Gretel said it. The strategic plan before had a taste of, like, where you've gone to first grade and then you've gone to second grade, and then instead of going on to third grade, it went back to first grade again.
Right.
So
And
that's what I want to make
what's
sure
important to me.
this,
I don't want them to spend time
Definitely.
rehashing and overviewing what I just talked to you about.
exactly. You've done a better job rehashing and
So,
overviewing
And that
it.
was part of my hesitation when this came to us in November, is it felt like we were going to rehash through things that we already knew that morale was low. We already knew,
Yes.
at this point, I think the timing of this makes a lot more sense. I'm super appreciative of the fact that you have jumped in, and I don't want you to lose the momentum. The director of finance, that position being hired, I just want to make sure that, obviously, time-wise, that makes
Yeah.
sense, so that takes the load off you and that person's in their role. I did have a question because I noticed today it says 65,000 and then back in November it was 60. Is that 65 is what we budgeted for, correct?
65 is what we budgeted
Okay.
for. And I'm
Obviously, I
gonna,
would assume cost has probably gone up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming.
but I'm gonna talk to them because we're likely gonna rescope their
Yes.
proposal,
I think
because
that would be
I
good.
don't want them, I
Rehashing.
don't want them rehashing. I
Perfect.
don't want them going back through.
So you haven't begun the
this.
negotiation
So,
with them yet? This
no.
is just perfect.
This is mainly, if I came today and you said, no, it doesn't matter,
Why waste it? Yeah.
don't even waste your time, then there's no point in me having them rework a proposal. So, if you're, committed to moving forward with this, then I'm gonna have that conversation with them and identify the proposal, work it out, so it's what we want to see, it's where we want to spend these resources at that makes sense, so we can get the most bang for the buck, and we're not rehashing things that we don't need to rehash.
Great.
And I also have in my head what I want to see in terms of, not the content, but the meaning, the meaningfulness of it. I want to make sure that it's not going to just be like a memo from them to us. I
Right.
want it to be something that is
Like a map, like a map.
substantial, And so because of that, the price might be the same, because I want more of that, but they're gonna take out, all of this other stuff, or it might be a little less. So I wanna have that conversation with them to rework what's in that proposal.
Are you only considering this Citygate, or are there other, you've worked with others, are there others that
I've
you would
worked
consider?
with others, my
getting closer?
concern is, since they've already had a relationship with
Mhm.
us, I
They
don't
have
want
not.
to then have to pay for another vendor
Re-education, yeah.
to re-educate, and so that would be my issue, because then we're having to catch them up, right?
Yeah.
And I prefer to
And I don't think the city gate did a bad job. I
No,
think
I'm
they-
just
yeah,
wondering
so
if
I
she
mean,
has experience
yeah,
with
there
others
isn't
and I didn't.
any reason to not use them.
Right. The other thing too that I want to make sure as a council that we're doing for you is that we're empowering you to go back and rehash these things so that way that every 5 years we're not paying $65,000 to go back to first grade. So I fully support this idea.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a much better presentation than what we were delivered in, 4 months ago.
Right, last time we were asking for, I think,
We were
a
asking
presentation
questions
like this
and
doesn't,
not,
this isn't.
Well, I think it
good.
came in consent agenda, which is,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
So I think you're feeling supported and going on to that next step of talking to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to them, we'll start working through a proposal, and then ultimately I will bring back that proposal so that we can engage in that contract. So I'm hoping to get that turned around relatively quickly.
Do we have any members of the public that have any comments to add to our, Mr. Oxison?
I'm super happy that you're encouraged by this. By the way, I'm Tim Oskey. I am a citizen of Angels Camp, and I am here representing Destination Angels Camp. We have been an advocate for City Gate for a long time, as you know. We have written a couple of letters, asking you for a vote to approve this. I just wanted to kind of go back and give a little bit of a history here, and it's just all in your packet. Our current city administrator, Rebecca Callen, is now recommending that we approve City Gate. Our past city administrator recommended that we approve City Gate. Our current mayor, who was on the board or on city council when we first did City Gate, has recommended that we approve City Gate. Amanda Follendorf, Joe Olivera, past mayors, have recommended this as well. City Gate was first presented in fiscal year 2017 and 2018. And I'm just going to highlight a couple things. I won't talk too long, I promise. The study served as a foundation, just like Rebecca said, for strategic planning and goal setting necessary to focus the city's energy. And that's what we're looking for, is focus, right? We want to know what the roadmap is. And I would encourage you guys to not worry so much about looking at what we've already done. It feels to me like we're kind of we're worried about tearing down the statue. Right now we have a really good statue, we have a good foundation. Let's not go rip it down, because we need history. We need to learn from what we have done, so they do need to look at what we've accomplished in order to move forward. So council engaged in that effort of City Gate in December of 2018. I don't know if you guys remember this, but at that time, the city was this close to bankruptcy. We were this close. There were conversations about getting away from incorporating the only city in Calaveras County. It was a scary time. City Gate brought us out of that. City Gate gave us that roadmap. May of 2020, City Gate gave you guys a proposal, or gave council a proposal on what they would do. It was pretty clearly defined, and they gave you, a not-to-exceed price. Melissa Eads, our past administrator, went back to them again, and she also made a recommendation in November that we approve City Gate. In October of 2021, City Gate gave us another proposal. They also gave us all of their kind of credentials, everybody that's going to work on this and what they're going to do. Bottom line is, City Gate worked for this city in the past. We believe that it's going to work for this city in the future. DAC supports it. We've had past administrators, past mayors support this. I really, really hope that you guys will vote this forward and let us move forward in a positive manner. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Any other members of the public? Mrs. Hildy.
Hi, Veronica Matilde, Angels Camp citizen, and I was on the council when City Gate came to us, and believe me, we were scared because we were talking about not having a City of Angels camp, and that would be just heartbreaking. They helped us focus, identify the basic needs. Again, as Tim said, something regarding, the foundation. And at that point, we were able to say, okay, got to start at the bottom and build up. And then COVID hit, and everyone was freaking out in regards to finances. It's like when businesses are shut down, there's no tax generation. And with that plan, I truly believe it was intricate in pulling us through. And this council here has that opportunity to keep going, keep building upon that. And as Rebecca stated earlier, this council is temporary, as we all know. We keep moving forward and things change. So I have a lot of confidence in their abilities and your abilities to identify what's needed now and in the future, and to lay that foundation upon this foundation and keep building. So I highly recommend that you approve it, work with them. I think you will be pleasantly surprised with their expertise. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll bring it back to council. Kind of a random question that I have for you, Rebecca. Crystal ball, obviously Citygate last time, had they known that there was going to be a COVID, they would have anticipated how to behave and how to act and how to make up for sales tax and things like that. Is there a way to incorporate opportunities, like in this next Citygate, ask for them to have like a safety net in the event of an economic downturn? And I'm not saying we know that it's going to be a COVID or murder hornets or whatever, but whatever the next thing is, it's going to be an economic downturn. It potentially could be an economic downturn.
Right.
So like, this is what you do, these are your priorities.
Yeah.
We know what they are. But
So this was kind of identified also in phase one, is because the city was not in a good position financially, there wasn't really a strong reserve policies.
Yes.
And just because, what do you reserve when you don't have any money, right? So you're trying to pay for fire and police and your day-to-day, keep the lights on. So part of that, analysis in, increasing the TOT and increasing the sales tax and all of the things that were incorporated in that was so that the city had the opportunity to actually put money away in reserves. So I think what's important is also to, and they talk about this in phase one, as part of the financial policies, we really need to continue building on those financial policies, because included in that financial policy is going to be reserve policies. And those are the pieces that are missing right now. And that's identified in that original plan and the recommendation. So those policies also help us when times are tough, because we can sit there and we can say, well, we really want to do this, we really want to do that. Well, if that's in conflict with that 5% reserve that we need, that we all agree that we're going to keep, or whatever it is, you can do that, but you need to understand what the consequences of that are. Yeah. So part of that is really identifying those financial policies that are put into place so that you have those safeguards.
For sure.
But yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Before we refer a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Isabel
I'll second it.
and Ms. Caroline. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So looks like that will pass on a 401 again, Rose. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, item 7E. discussion of financial review, February 2022, and approval of budget amendments. Rebecca.
Okay, so, so a couple of things that I noticed when I started that were missing in the council packets are included in this council packet. So one of them is in the set area, which is the check register. And the other one is just a monthly financial report. So the check register will always be in the second meeting of every month because it is showing all the checks that were paid the month prior. And then the financial review will always also be in the second month. The other thing that we're also going to be working on, we're just not at that place yet, is treasury report. So that'll be the other component of the financial reports when they come out. So this really has to do with financial review as it pertains to budget and actuals, okay? So way back when, you actually used to receive a monthly financial packet from staff, but it looks like, based on my findings, that due to COVID and just staffing changes, the practice just ended just because there weren't the resources to do it. And then it just never came back. So so you'll be seeing that every once a month. The focus of the review is really going to be funds and budget units that are under the authority of the council. So I'm not going to spend time telling you about what an assessment district is doing or other people that are other agencies that are in our treasury, but mainly what you guys have control over. So when we look at budget and benchmarks, so through February, revenue should be about 66% of budget and expenditures should be about 66% of budget. We're a little over halfway through the fiscal year, July through June. So I look at things from, okay, lining everything up, budget to actuals, what is either trending above 66%, which could be a good thing with revenue, or not such a good thing if it's expenditures, okay? So when you look revenues by fund versus expenditures by fund, we're actually in a really good position. Just looking at the general fund, we have revenues of almost 3 million, 2.962 million in revenues, and expenses of 2.258. So that's a good position to be in. Your actual revenues are exceeding your actual expenditures by a considerable amount, roughly $411,000. For the most part, that's the trend across the globe here. We are, overall revenues are about almost 73% for the year, compared to 66%. Higher than we anticipated for this period of the fiscal year. Some of the things just to be aware of why that is. Transient occupancy tax is currently $140,000 higher than was budgeted. I also have identified in looking through our TOT receipts, we are not getting revenue from Airbnb. So I have reached out to Airbnb because they only collect and pay taxes if you have a tax agreement with them. So when I was at the county, the treasurer and I, as the auditor controller, worked with our legal counsel and Airbnb to actually get a tax agreement with them. So if you went online and looked at Airbnb, they will show you what counties they have, what agencies they have tax agreements with, and they say Calaveras County, not including the incorporated city. So they do not collect taxes for any vacation rentals in the city limits, and therefore we do not get a check from them. Now, if you have an Airbnb, you as the property owner, you collect it separately and then pay us, but unless we police that, we wouldn't really know. So there is a little bit of a revenue leakage here.
So.
And the county's doing it, but only for them, not the
Only
incorporated?
for them,
Okay.
yes. So that is something that I'm working on. It's just
Is that
trying to-
Airbnb and VRBO?
Yeah, it's all the same.
All of those guys, okay.
So
How
I
many
am,
of those are there in the city?
there's more than you think. So
I've worked for that.
regardless, it's money on the table and I want it, so.
Unless the person is sending the check, which I know some people were doing that. They would
Some people
send,
do
they
it.
do it on their own, but.
So if it's being collected, it's being collected by the property owner aside from the
And then they send it in.
organization? And then they, out of the
And then they
goodness.
send it in. But yeah, so that is something that I'm working on. It's just trying to get someone from Airbnb to respond and answer. But I am going to push that to get that agreement in place. It just takes time to get that done. But regardless, we're almost $141,000 higher than anticipated. Property taxes are $200,000 higher than what was budgeted for this period. It does make sense, it makes sense that it will continue to go up as well. And so I think we're going to continue to see that trend. Sales taxes are $14,000 higher than historical trends. It's not a ton, but that's still pretty good. In Prop 172, about $13,000. Prop 72 is also a portion of sales tax. So those are always, if you see one's up, that other one's going to be up as well, because they're both sales tax. Expenses are only 52.6% compared to the 66%, so that's significantly under budget. The main factors really has to do with savings associated with salaries for permanent, part-time, and overtime. So that could be from, vacancies that we've had, less overtime than what we had projected, all sorts of things, but that's generally what it is. For the most part, other expense classifications are under budget, and I will say that a big contributor to that is our departments are very, they don't want to get in trouble. So, and they have not had financial information. And so they have been very, very not willing to make purchases, even if it was in the budget, because if they were over somewhere else or their revenues were under, they didn't want to be put in a position that they overextended their budget. So they've kind of refrained from making those equipment purchases and those tool purchases and whatever those things are. So I'm working with departments to go ahead and get your purchases going.
Is that typical for this time of year because of where we're at in the budget, or is it just that kind of
It's that
unnerving?
unknown, and so they don't want to, they don't know. So they just didn't know what their budget looked like. So they've got that information, and I'm working with them to kind of get don't go all crazy.
Do the maintenance, but
No blank checks.
Yeah, you gotta still stay within your budget, but don't cut off your nose to spite your face. And then transportation projects, we have, all this project funding. The sidewalk project really ramped up, the Murphy's sidewalk project and that. So that's where our bulk of expenditures are coming out of right now. And we are upside down in that particular budget by $817,000. But that's just cash flow. That's just because we've had a lot of expenses going out and the claims are going out as well, and we're waiting to get reimbursed for those. So I'm not having a coronary for that. That's fine. And then, the other major funds that we have is sewer operations and management. Just as it's called, it's sewer operations and management. And overall revenues are 74% and expenses are 47%. The rate revenue is actually slightly down from the prior year actuals, but it's over than what was budgeted. So it's kind of weird, but I don't know. And then salary savings is another contributor for why it's less than budget. And that sewer and water
big time didn't want to buy maintenance items unless he knew what was in his budget. So I will start seeing some movement on these guys, but they're still well within budget. The one area we really have to watch, and I would say the one area for here, and then there's another area that's not on here, chemical costs have skyrocketed. And so those are trending higher than anticipated. I think that for the most part, internal transfers of savings and other line items will be fine, and we can cover that. But it's just something that we have to be aware of. The other thing that we're just really going to have to keep an eye on, as everybody else, you know, on the planet is also having to keep an eye on, are fuel costs. So fuel costs for police, fire, water and sewer, everybody who's driving vehicles and relying on fuel, that is going to be something we're just going to have to keep an eye on. And then the other thing to just be aware of, and this is the case for sewer operations and water operations, when the moratorium for lockoffs happened, there was only a mandated moratorium on lockoffs. There was not a mandate to not charge late fees, and there was not you just couldn't lock anyone off.
Right.
And so some agencies, utility agencies, part of their revenue stems from late charges, from lockoff notices, and from the physical lockoff and then the restoration. So what you lose is if you just can't lock off but you're still charging late fees, you would lose the door notices, the lockoff charge, and then the restoration charge. But you would still have gotten the revenue off of the late fees. We didn't charge late fees either. So none of it has been charged. And to date, still no late fees are getting charged. That was a practice that I don't see that the council made a decision to do. That was just an internal practice that happened. It kind of makes things a little bit easier for the arrearage program, because the arrearage program through the state that gave utility agencies water arrearages, water rates that had not been paid from delinquent accounts. The caveat is, if you got the money for the late charges through that arrearage grant program, you have to waive the late fees. Or we didn't charge any late fees anyway, so we don't have to waive anything. However, that program is really done, so what's done is done. So we're still not charging late fees right now. So I would, you didn't take an action to not charge the late fees. So I would say you don't really need to take an action to charge the late fees, but I am kind of recommending in practice that we go ahead and start charging the late fees again. But if you hear any rumblings, I'm just forewarning you, that's where it's coming from. But that is revenue that is not coming in.
Is that
Water
why the
and sewer.
revenue is down on both? you think?
On both, that's the utility late fees.
That's the missing link, was that we weren't charging the late fees.
Or the door hangers and the start.
Which I understand the door
Yeah, I get the
hangers
door
and
hanger
the
thing.
lockoff and the restoration, because
Yeah.
legally you couldn't
Pretty
do
good.
that, but the late fees was different.
I think I remember asking this question about a year ago, what our revenue was that we had not collected from people that hadn't paid bills. And I want to say about a year ago, it was $67,000.
Yeah.
So what are we at now?
I'd have to go and look, but it's material. So, I mean, it is just something to be aware of, because now you can lock off, but it's just, we have to go through the motions administratively if we were going to lock someone off, because we have to give them an option for a payment plan. So we'll work through some of that, but there's nothing that's preventing us from charging late fees on delinquent accounts anymore. and there's nothing to prevent us from locking off either, as long as they're, if they're truly not making any attempt at paying their bill or entering into a payment plan, then they legally can be locked off.
Have you, of all of the individuals that are delinquent, have you reached out? Are they all either in a payment plan or attempting to make some sort of
So
percent?
I need to look at that, and I also need to look, because we did just get the arrearage check for water.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't cover the wastewater, but it does cover the water. And that was $89,000. So I need to do an accounting of that, and then we need to apply that to all the accounts. And then once we do that, then I'll know where everybody stands. But that's only water, that's not wastewater.
So let's say, 531 hasn't paid their water bill in 18 months, so this money that you're getting from the federal government, state, is going to pay his back water, but at some point in time, we have to make these people responsible for, it can't be a
Well,
free ride,
it's
right?
only paying, so that arrearage program only went through June 15th of 2021.
I don't have it on my
It was
recall.
Amy and then. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's way past.
We need to get this back online.
Yeah,
It's
well, that's what
past
I'm
it.
saying,
So
we have to
What's gonna
get.
happen is you're gonna,
Yeah.
so like, let's say that person didn't pay. And so this arrearage program takes them through June, I think it's June 15th of 2021, if I recall.
They're still.
That takes them through there. Well, they still didn't pay their bill from July of 2021 to March 15th of
Right.
2022. Nothing's coming out to bail that person out,
Right.
nothing. And so at that point, they need to
That's a
enter
lot.
into a payment plan and start making, and that payment plan can be no less, so the state requirement is the payment plan cannot be any less than 12 months. So we can give someone 12 months to pay off that delinquent account. But they have to make regular progress based on that payment plan. It's a contract. So if they fail that contract, then we have every right for water to shut them off. And once per year, we can take those delinquencies, give them to the county, it will get put on the tax roll, and they will be liened on the property. We can do that once per year. In between that time, because this is just an unprecedented, this is generally never, this has never happened.
Right.
So normally, once a year is fine. We just go to the tax roll, we send it over there, they put it on, and they either pay it with their tax bill, or, after 5 years, it would go to tax lien. It would go to tax lien sale. You can't shut anyone off for non-payment of wastewater. You can't legally. You can restrict for water, but you can't shut their sewer off. So what I would say is, once we get the arrearage posted to everybody, we're gonna look at all the accounts where they're sitting. And we may not wait to cloud the title on the property until we can give it to the auditor. We may just go ahead and record liens with the recorder's office to cloud the title. Because if that property is sold between,
You'll never get
we're never gonna get it. So those will all be discharges. So just keep that in mind, is if any of those properties already sold, right? There's gonna be a significant portion of discharges that we're gonna have to bring to the council because we can't even lien the property because the property already sold.
Yeah, well, I think, unfortunately, I think there's a handful of people that have used this COVID now as a lifestyle to another free ticket out there, and we need to put an end to that.
Yeah. So, so we have to work on that.
Well, it's unfair to all the people who struggle.
Right,
and are paying
exactly.
their bill.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's why no utility late fees has happened, and so we are going to start implementing those again, so just if you hear chatter, that's what it's about. And then water operations and management, their overall revenue is about 67%, so slightly higher than the 66, but expenses are still lower, so 58. And then the rate the rate revenue is trending a little bit higher, so by about $30,000. And again, couldn't charge any late fees, door hanger fees, or restoration fees, so that's why. All the other city special revenue funds, which is all the, all funds that we have in the city treasury that are under your purview, they're all trending as normal. In terms of expenses by department, regardless of what fund, the top department, this is how it always is. The top expending departments are police. But he's still only 56% of budget. The general fund grant projects, which is 37% of budget, and that includes that sidewalk project. And finance and administration, which is at 65%, a little over 65. The thing with finance and administration, that's where all of our insurance is. So our liability insurance, so all of that gets paid out at the beginning of the year in a lump. So that's why that's always so high. And then all of the departments are within that budget threshold of 66% and lower. So that's all good. The police department did receive a cannabis grant to pay for equipment training and overtime, but I can't find that budget amendment was ever brought to council, so that's why that's in this packet. It's a little over $46,000. And then in terms of the general fund grant department, the revenue is only just under 18%, but that's just because we're waiting for reimbursements on the sidewalk project. So all staff were already given budget instructions and the worksheets and the templates and all the access for the 22-23 budget development. I'm meeting to identify departmental goals for the year that are specific to their departments, any grant opportunities that they might have identified that are coming down, and any project delivery schedules that I need to be aware of so that I can relay the information to the council. And then we are projecting budget hearings to occur June 7th with adoption to happen on June 21st. And the one budget transfer request is, it's just for that cannabis transfer. Okay. So we're recognizing a motion on that one. So we're just recognizing the revenue with the offsetting expenditures. He's already been expending it, but he's throwing his budget off. So it's making it look like he's going over budget on certain items, but he's really not because he's good.
I will make the motion for the, oh, sorry, we have to have public
Actually,
comment.
I just want to say thank you for all this.
Yeah.
Very, very point.
I love pie charts too.
I was like, where can I put a pie chart? Work them in wherever you can.
Public comment. Anybody have anything to say about our financial report?
Okay, Matilde, Angels Camp, just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the layout and being able to hear what's going on and where the money's sitting. And I'm sure that the general public appreciates that too. I'm hoping that, of course, they tune in. But yeah, it's always nice to know where the money's going, and especially now, I think that everybody's feeling it a little more. And so it's appreciated. It's a lot of hard work, and the council has to look at it all and understand what's going on too and have their input. So, the public appreciates it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, bringing it back to council. Any other final council comments? Okay, so now I'll make your motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes with a 401. Okay, administration report. You've kind of done that.
Well, I will give you some additional report outs. So I am having conversations with Springbrook
My concern was that if we did the migration, it was gonna be bigger than what it was, and I just don't have time to deal with data migration and all sorts of other stuff. But they've assured me it's not at all. And so what it does do is it opens up more reporting capability. It opens up an upgrade for Civic Pay, which is what our customers use to pay their bills. The version that they're using right now is an old version, which is not very user-friendly, and it also precludes us from being able to share additional information with customers. And all sorts of kind of like fun type of stuff that I love. But anyway, so I'm having conversations with him. For the most part, we kind of already paid for some of that cloud migration in July, so it's just sitting there waiting for us. So I have a conversation scheduled with our project person there, so we might move forward with that faster than I had intended. I was thinking I was going to look at it till July, but we might be able to do something because I might not have to do anything with it. And then if I don't have to do anything with it, then I'm good. So that is something I licensed a software called Smartsheet. It's very inexpensive, but it's super, super helpful, and we're already using it for our online recruitments. We use it for the police recruitment, for the finance director recruitment, and for the administrative technician, or the account technician recruitment. It makes it super, super easy. Everybody has said really good things about it. And so today we just unveiled a electronic purchase order and workflow.
Wow.
Sent out to staff. Also, I sent it out actually a few weeks ago with an IT help request, so we can start documenting all of the IT issues that we need help with, so that I can also kind of keep track of those where we need to invest a little bit more. Today, we also unveiled a grant enrollment portal so that all departments can now start getting the information with regards to every single grant that they are working on, have open, are in the process of doing anything on, whether we have, whether it's just been applied for, has been approved, is currently being spent, whatever it is, so that we have a centralized area for all of the grants. And then also a project, what do we call it, like a project intake form, because we've got all these little big and little projects all over the place, and everyone's keeping little spreadsheets of all of them, and we just need a way to kind of centralize all those. So all that went out today, a lot of that went out today. So that's exciting. So we're using that. And then let's see, the Murphy's Grade project, they just finished quite a bit of work on that. They think they're going to start the drainage here pretty soon. Rebecca Nealon has been on them to try to speed this thing up. Realistically, we're still looking at probably the middle of April before it's completely finished. But that's the status of that guy there. Oh, the other thing that I use Smartsheet for is, so on a weekly basis, department heads are getting a request to fill out kind of a look back, look forward for me. Destination Angels Camp is getting it as well, so WCON is getting that as well. And then I'm also going to be sending something similar to Martin, so he can compile that information for the council, and I'll just start generating kind of a weekly news and notes letter that will go out. So that's going to be coming. I think probably a lot of the, when you don't hear anything, I think that people can think something's not or is happening, and so I think the more information that you have in terms of what's going on, I think it puts everybody in mind at ease, so we're gonna try to get that going. And, I think that's about it for me.
Thank you.
Awesome.
A lot of work and it's appreciated, and the transparency is huge.
Much appreciated. Okay, calendar, Rose has already given us all our printed out fancy.
Thank you for the whole year, I love it.
No, I
Oh,
can't see
this
it,
one's
but-
for you, so. So,
You passed council.
we're gonna do our council reports, yeah, I already did that. So, council reports. I'm jumping around, I'm doing it in my order. Gretel, what you been doing?
Selling raffle tickets, I have some. This is a great.
I wanna get one from you
These
tonight.
are great.
I need to get one too.
Yeah, these
I
are
will get
great.
one.
Don't forget, we are only selling 500 and I think I want to say we're having a meeting tomorrow, but I want to say we're probably close to the 200 mark already. So
And that's how
we're
many
doing well.
are you
We're
selling?
selling 500 total.
500 total.
Yeah, and the drawing will be in June, but when the tickets are gone, they're gone. So it's a good deal. Other than that, the Celtic Fair this weekend, the traffic was insane. We had a solid line past the porch all day long, and we weren't overly busy because of that. I mean, we were busy, but the traffic was nuts. So, and people were coming in and they had a great time, and it seemed like like an hour to get there and check in, and I heard really good things about it. So I think people are ready for, activities again. The masks are off at school officially. My kids are not going to recognize their friends. So other than that, I have ACTA tomorrow and DAC next week, and that's all.
Thank you for bringing up the traffic. Yes, I saw the traffic
Yeah,
being an issue. Chief and I talked to Lori Jeannie as well. We're gonna have a little bit of a debrief on exactly what didn't quite work with that traffic flow.
Did they have,
It was in all directions.
It was in all directions.
It was all
Even
down
the Maloney's.
Their parking staff
Yeah.
didn't know, or weren't able to get them in.
The
That's
parking
what I
staff
thought.
couldn't get them in fast enough, and by the time Lori found out that was happening, she was down there trying to help, and it's like the damage had already been done, so, we're gonna kind of brainstorm a little bit, because I don't think, and we had kind of talked about this too, I think it's like, everybody got to come out, so I
It
don't.
was a beautiful day.
Right, but I think it's
But-
a snapshot of what fair is gonna be like.
Yeah, so
Because
But
everyone's
fair, with fair, the AMA, they've been doing it for so
For
many years.
sure,
They
but
have
I
that
think
down,
attendance
but
is
yes,
gonna
but
be
attendance will be
Attendance
strong.
will be
Yeah,
strong.
attendance is gonna be really strong, and so, we're just gonna kind of strategize on what we can do to facilitate, just a smoother traffic situation, because
It was 45 minutes to an hour to get through.
yeah, it was pretty bad.
well,
So-
I mean, fortunately, I don't think we had any incidences, but I mean, God forbid we needed to get a fire
Well,
truck or
that's
something.
the thing,
I
is that
mean,
when they know, if the fairgrounds lets the fire department know or the city know, then they know to stage the ladder truck somewhere else, right? Am I right? Or whatever you need to do so that we can get to calls. And so if they don't know with a plan that they're gonna have all these people
Yeah,
at the
'cause they
fairgrounds, then our emergency services.
People couldn't move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So.
Definitely something to be aware of, but I was just, making that motion or mention because I haven't seen that. I mean, I really.
Well, you were right there. I
Oh, yeah.
I saw it on
I was there all
Facebook and I did reach out to Chief Ellis and to Rebecca. And I was like, I'm so sorry to bug you, but just letting you know. And so they were great. They responded and they were already, and you already knew. And so.
All in all, I think it was uneventful out there, was it, Chief?
Yeah, it was uneventful. We had one issue of, there was a group of motorcycles that came in that just, one of them decided to pop a wheelie and crash or something.
Oh, I
but-
guessed it right. I thought that's what he did.
That's unfortunate for him.
So I
that
have
was-
to say, with all
that
the
was
beer that
it.
was happening and a bunch of people with swords, you weren't
Yeah.
needed. So what does that mean?
No in-town LARPing or anything like that, so it was good.
Like a super adulting weekend.
No downtown jousting.
No.
Right.
We had lots of
Okay,
bikers
Carol.
down.
Let's see, I went to the ribbon cutting at Vine and Fork on
Oh,
Wednesday, and you were there too. That was
great. I went to the museum dedication of the new plaque with the E. campus vitus that they donated the plaque, and Isabel was there, and Supervisor Fallendorf was there, so it was a great turnout. They are making this into an annual event, so they're going to move it by one weekend because they don't want to be here the same time as the Celtic Fair because they couldn't find hotel rooms, so they're going to move it the week before. And then I have IRWMA tomorrow, so I'll report about that.
Okay, so I had COG on the 2nd, and Amber Collins is no longer the executive director. She went on to bigger and better things, which is exciting for her, but not for COG. Our interim director is Melissa Raggio, and we are recruiting for that position, so if you know anyone that's interested, send them to the COG website. An exciting news that we were given there is that $4.5 million for the eastern part of the wagon trail has been secured.
Oh, it has.
So that's really exciting. And for the Calaveras Transit Agency, they are recruiting for full-time drivers as well as part-time drivers. So same thing, if you know anyone looking for work, check that out. And they said that the ridership is up 10%. And dial ride is up 11.7%, which is also exciting. I also attended the ribbon cutting as well as the museum event, and it was such a beautiful monument that shortly thereafter had a beer poured on it, which I've never
Christened
witnessed
it.
before, but very exciting. And then also on the 2nd, I attended the groundbreaking for Highway 4, and being a member of COG, I was gifted a fun gold shovel, which I took it over to Debbie Pawnee because Debbie was not there, and I felt that it was really important for her, felt like it might mean a little bit more to her. So it had been at DAC this week, and I'm giving this to the city to store and, yeah.
Put it on the wall.
We're going to high.
Yeah, I know. We'll put photos together for it.
We do have some.
And then a ticket plug. Whiskerino tickets are available. That's happening on April 30th out at the fairgrounds. And then I also have pig tickets for Oddfellows. We're raffling off a pig. It's like $5 a ticket. So those are just plugs for you. Little things downtown. So that is my report.
Awesome.
And Waco next time.
My report is very similar to everybody else. I attended the wagon trail ribbon cutting on the 2nd with you guys, with everybody. I attended the UWPA. We had a resource committee meeting on the 8th, talking about ag water and contracts. Basically, how to identify any changes we're going to be making to the contracts for the ag users. I was at the Celtic Fair on Saturday volunteering. I was supposed to work a shift from 10 until 1, and I was stuck there till 6 because the people that were coming out to relieve me couldn't get out there. And story is, somebody just gave up and started walking and beat the cars there, walking as opposed to driving. So I don't know if that's true or not. And then I survived daylight savings time.
Barely
a little bit.
We may not have to do that anymore.
Yeah, we'll see. So that's all I have. 1 hour. If anybody else has nothing, I think we're ready for adjournment.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you.
All in favor?
Okay, yeah. It's not even giving you a choice to be all in favor.
Right?
It's time to walk on the
Wow, good job, lady.
Right.
Yeah, no.